Hey, mythology lovers! I'm back with another video. The last video I did, magic and myths, I thought was actually kind of interesting. I thought I would have another video on the topic. Only this time I want to focus on one area of magic, and that's basically raising the dead. Uh, there's um, there's at least two types of raising the dead. There's the simple resurrection of someone who died, which is a nice thing to do, I guess, for that person. But then there's something a lot more sinister, and that's necromancy. That's the belief that you could raise somebody up from the dead temporarily in order to get information you need that the dead know, but you don't. Usually, this type of raising the dead is either in spirit only or in body as well. Um, we have several examples of this well, the first type, simply raising resurrecting the dead. We have a few types in the Bible. There's of course Jesus raising Lazarus, and then there's of course in the Old Testament there's a holy man named Elijah who raises somebody from the dead too who died. But this is not seen so much as magic. Magic is seen as sort of dangerous and ungodly, unholy. And, believers would say, well, Jesus wasn't a magician. He's the Son of God. He can do whatever he wants. It was a miracle. And Elijah, they would say, is a holy man. He can perform all kinds of things. It's really God doing it, just working through him. But then there's another story that involves a witch who is seen as someone who's involved in dark arts. And her story is in the Old Testament. And I think it's in Second Samuel in the Old Testament. And the story goes like this. The Saul, the Jewish king, the Hebrew king, is about to engage in a serious war that he doesn't think is going to go his way. So his mentor, Samuel, had just died, and he needed his advice. So he thought, well, this witch knows how to raise the dead. Maybe I should go to her. So he went. He made this night journey to her quietly, and he went to her and said, I need your help. And she said, what, are you kidding me? You're Saul. You're the king. You outlawed people like me for performing magic. And he says, yeah, well, we'll think of this as an exception. You're doing me a personal favor. So she said, all right, if you say so. And he said, I need Samuel's spirit to be called up because I need to know how the war's going to go the next day. And so she performs her spells and her rituals, and from the depths rises in all his glory the ghost of Samuel. And Saul says, hi, Sam. I kind of need your advice. How's the war going to go tomorrow? How's the battle going to go? And Samuel says, not good, dude. You're toast. And sure enough, the next day, Saul loses the battle and his life as well. This is an interesting story because it raised a lot of commentary in terms of the Samuel and his spirit. Was that really Samuel that was called up? Because it's seen that somebody as holy as Samuel wouldn't be coerced into being called up from the land of the dead by some dark witch dealing in dangerous powers. So some believe that it was really a demon she called up from that she really called up, and not really Samuel. Samuel wouldn't allow himself such an indignity. But personally, I think when it comes to these early storytellers, myth makers, and I do see this as a myth, unless you're a biblical literalist. I think when it comes to reading mythology over many years, I noticed that consistency is not the strong point of myths and legends. Early storytellers are not too concerned with theological consistency. Would a witch have a power to call up a holy man like Samuel? I mean, that's just my opinion. I just think if the Bible says it's Samuel, then it's most likely Samuel. So this leads the question of illicit magic. Should people be dabbling in it? Is it, there's examples in ancient times of calling up spirits of the dead. Is it something, or calling up demons? Is it something you should be doing? Some medieval thinkers thought, no, you should never have anything to do with demons. No. Even if you try and make them your slaves and you think you're on God's side, you shouldn't be doing it. And there's others that argue that, well, if you're on God's side, you can, there's nothing wrong with making a demon or two your slave. In this classic collection of spells from different grimoires, the Book of Ceremonial Magic by author Edward Waite, and I have others too. This is just one that's a famous compilation. You'd be surprised how much they read like prayers, as if the magician is calling down, invoking God to kind of look kindly at what he's doing, and then there's even one grimoire out there that kind of gives its blessings, saying that, hey, this is something the Pope does all the time. Now with this grimoire, you can do it too. But one more thing I'll say before I move on, because I'm getting a little too much into the occult and I'm moving away from myth. But I'll just say one more thing. Two more things briefly. In this very interesting book, Battling Demons: Witchcraft, Heresy, and Reform in the Late Middle Ages, by Michael Bailey. Don't worry, I'll have this book in the comments before. There was also a lot of discussion as to witchcraft and demonology that people believed that others were engaging in. And there was an interesting comment about, do you have the right to address a demon? For example, let's say you think you're sick and you're being assaulted by a demon. Do you just constantly pray? Or can you say, "Begone, demon"? Others thought, no, you shouldn't address a demon at all, because once you start a conversation with it, it gets kind of dangerous. But then there were others that felt that there's nothing wrong with saying, "Begone, demon." As a matter of fact, that's kind of what exorcists do. Of course, they're professionals, they're clerics, they can do it. But some believe that there's a fine line between magical ritual and exorcism in a way. You don't have a bunch of priests sitting around a body and saying, "Please, God, release her." You have some of them saying, "Begone, demon." So, although I have to be fair, I'm not exactly sure how modern exorcists do it today. Although I knew, but there are some clerics today, some Protestants, some Catholic, that really say that they actually command the demon to go. But anyway, it's an interesting topic. I want to get away from the occult and get back into myth. I want to talk about two stories of necromancy that are very, very interesting. One of them is told in this story here. It's called Civil War, and it's by the ancient writer Lucan. And sometimes this epic is called Pharsalia, but it's more accurately called Civil War. And it's funny, this epic is not talked about as much. It's these days, it's not quite as old as the Aeneid, but for many years it was compared to the Aeneid, and it was seen as being just as important. But in recent centuries, or maybe in the last 100 years, people haven't been as kind to it. They see the Aeneid as amazing, and this is not so good. But it's a great story. It's basically an epic based on the civil war that happened between the forces of Julius Caesar and Pompey. And there's an interesting episode in here which really deals with dangerous, dark magic that you shouldn't be bothered with. There were some soldiers that wanted to get information as to how the war was going, and they came across this really ugly old witch living living. She lives among cemeteries and corpses, and she's unkept. And they go up to her and they kind of flatter her a little bit. Oh, we hear you're. Her name was Erictho, and they're like, oh, we hear you're amazing. You're like this most remarkable witch. And she's like, well, thank you very much. What do you need from me? And so they say, well, we need information that we don't know, and we'd like you to resurrect somebody that would know. So this happens to be, there happen to be some bodies lying around because there was a battle there, and she comes across one body that the vocal cords were enough in place so that the corpse can talk. So she does this elaborate ritual where she not only says spells, but she makes all kinds of horrible noises mimicking nature, and eventually she gets the soul to get back in the body, but the soul doesn't want to go back in the body because it's all dead and clammy and cold. And what's going to stop anybody from doing this again? And she promises him, look, I'll tell you what, get inside the body, and after you do my bidding, I'll burn the corpse, and this way no one will ever do this to you again. And he goes, okay. So she coaxes the spirit into the body and gets it to talk, and they're able to answer the questions that the soldiers ask. So that's and as promised, after it's over, she burns the corpse, and that's that. So that's an interesting story of a bodily temporary resurrection, in an example of necromancy. There's the final story is it's one of my favorites. It's from the Kalevala. This is the Epic of Finland. I spoke about this book in my books on Finnish and Slavic mythology. I didn't read this version, but I'm showing you this version. I read other English versions, but I got this version only because it's illustrated. It's really cool. And on the cover, there's one of the heroes. His name is Lemminkainnen, or Lemminkainnen. Lemminkainnen, and this is a woman that, he's a bit of a womanizer, and this is the woman that's pining for him. And over here is his mother. And so Lemminkainnen is one of the heroes that goes off and tries to win the beautiful daughter of Pohjola, this powerful witch in the north. And while he's performing feats of heroism in order to win her, he's killed by his enemy. Well, one of the things he has to do to win the daughter of Pohjola is to shoot the Swan of Tuonela. If that sounds familiar, it's because it's a work by Jean Sibelius, the composer. What happens is that he had to travel to the underworld, which is called Tuonela, and there's a river, and there's a swan that swims down it, and his job was to shoot the swan. And he goes there to shoot the swan, but he doesn't get a chance to because he's killed by his enemy, Dripcap, also known as Soppy Hat. And he's dismembered and he's thrown in the river. But that doesn't stop his mother. His mother, who's a sorceress in her own right, goes down to the river and with this huge rake. And what she does is that she combs this huge river with this rake and actually collects his body parts. And she sews them together. And she starts whispering these spells, and she's got this amazing power. She could actually call gods of life to her, goddesses to her, to help her out in bringing her son back to life. She even calls on the bumblebee to bring her this special ointment. And she succeeds in bringing him back to life. And it's an interesting story in that it's not, unlike the Witch of Endor, and Erictho from Civil War, this act, for some reason, doesn't come across as ungodly or unholy. It doesn't involve demons. It's one of these stories that the Kalevala deals with. The Kalevala is an interesting book because it deals a lot with magical abilities. As a matter of fact, the main hero is a guy named Vainamoinen, and he's actually an old wizard. So rather than her being seen as this diabolical witch, she's seen as just a person who knows magical abilities And if you're powerful enough, you could bring your son back to life. And there's nothing really wrong with that if you got the ability to do it. So it's a very interesting story. And so that's pretty much all I have to say about resurrections and necromancy and stuff like that. So until next time.